Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturns. In last year's Ornament Challenge, the Puerto Rico Club won a free remote demonstration for being one of the top 3 clubs. Their topic was a truncated octahedron. Now, when I do one of these, I haven't done for a little while, I like to do a practice run. So what you're getting today is my practice run for the Puerto Rico Club. And by the way, this is the one we did for them and my practice runs. But these are interesting turnings because they start with a sphere and then involve multi-axis turning to get the other aspects of this turning, as you'll see in this video today. So let's turn one of these truncated octahedrons. Looks like a plumbing fixture. I'd like to take it beyond that, but let's turn them right now.
I'll spare you the roughing this cherry to cylinder stage for this 4" by 6" cylinder and get right on marking the key points for the sphere following the octagon method. As explained more in previous videos, I take the diameter times 0.414 for the length of a side and diameter times 0.293 for the distance from the corner of the cylinder containing the sphere to the corner of the octagon. The wood is oversized. Instead of simply wasting off this excess wood, I turn a tenon to indicate the top side of the octagon. The diameter is the size of the octagon. The bottom edge of the tenon is the top surface of the octagon. An alternative is to trim back the cylinder top and bottom and mark the size for the octagon side. While equivalent, I prefer the former. Then trim back the side represented for a 45-degree line, cutting the corner off the octagon. The sized tenons have served their purpose. I waste off at least half of the former diameter before splitting each side of the octagon except for the turning axis, and split each again before cutting corners again, and immediately moving on to round off the sphere. My sphere is somewhat egg-shaped, but I'll take care of that after parting off the sphere. Attempting to further refine the sphere here by eye often results in over-cutting. I want to perfect the sphere to get rid of the egg shape. Out comes the cup chuck and the padded live center to hold the sphere, which has been rotated 90 degrees from the original axis. Using my bowl gouge in shear cut mode and my skew as a scraper, I whittle down the ghost at the top horizon. With a total of 3 rotations, my sphere is ready. I will not do any sanding for this project. Although not a requirement, I find the end grain and orient the wood to the original axis and draw an equator line. Previously, I marked off this faceplate at 90-degree increments. After aligning the sphere to each mark, I draw an intersection across the equator. That is for 4 crosses at the equator line. Since the wood is already held securely, I proceed to measure the capacity of my chuck jaws, about 2 inches, and to mark this on the live center end. At this mark, I cut a tenon on the sphere. Then reverse the sphere after switching to my chuck to grasp the tenon. Once the sphere is secured, I mark the opposite end and then I flatten the end, cut the shallow tenon, and drill a 1-inch hole over halfway through the sphere. Next, swap the sphere end for end and hold by the last cut tenon. This has the same set of operations, but I will have to swap ends back to drill the earlier ends. Punching the intersections helps to nail at least one point. This will be useful in a little bit. A little bit different now since I do not have a mount for the chuck. Instead, I press the sphere against the closed jaws with live center pressure. Now I can mark and cut the tenon, but cannot drill at this time. Swap ends for mounting back into a chuck so that I can mark, trim, and drill. Find the next set mounting against the jaws again for marking and drilling. Nope, I cannot drill without a solid mount. Swap it end for end again to mount, mark, trim, and drill. Again, the other side. I cut one tenon too small and had to remount it to cut another tenon a little bit bigger. Please note that 2 of the holes are drilled to only about half-inch depth instead of full depth. This will be important later. Now for the interesting part. In previous projects of this sort, I turned plugs 1 inch on one side and 1.5 inches on the other side. They are placed in opposing holes and mounted between the drive and live centers. For this first one, and since the sphere is still mounted, I'll use only one. I need to reduce this size of the sphere to a large tenon, the same size as the plug. My skew and spindle gouge do the trick. It helps to sneak up on the cut next to the plug. I am right-handed, so making these required cuts is better on the live center side. I swap ends for the next set of cuts. This time remove the chuck and insert the other plug. Other than that, it is the same process with minor variations. This is the same sequence for the next 2 points. For the last 2 points, remember that the holes do not go through to the center. Initially, these are cut the same way as all the others. When I started parting the first one, the plug and the mortise failed because I cut into the hole. I did not realize that this is what has happened until the last one also failed. In both cases, I still had the center from the Forstner bit used to drill them. Then I could again mount and waste off more of the wood from this tenon. At this point, it is starting to look like something, except that it has kind of a cube at the center and has some excess wood at the 2 points not drilled out. Time to switch to a rotary gouge to carve away the cube. I also texture the surface. Little by little does the job. I want the octahedron to be a little more smooth without heavy scratches from the burr. I mount an abrasive wheel to the lathe. The wheel is mounted with a collar and a drawbar through the headstock. I run over the surface until I'm happy with the texture. Finally, a bath in walnut oil brightens the wood. This completes my truncated octahedron. It is an interesting piece, guaranteed to cause both wood-turning and non-turners alike to ask, how did you do that? I've turned these in many different configurations. They are always a lot of fun, but I really would like to take them far above the interesting plumbing fixture level. Help me, please. I'd appreciate your suggestions. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my website as well as on YouTube. When you subscribe to my website, my email notifications are much more reliable than YouTube's. Also, please tell your friends about my weekly videos. I appreciate your comments and questions. Please wear your full face shield whenever the lathe is running. As usual, yep, I'm nagging, but I hope to save your life and your eyesight. Once wood flies, dodging is not an option.